Hey, what's up, everyone? One of the things I like to do is to highlight obscure Star Wars expanded universe. This is one of the biggies. A very fun video for me to do this magazine, Dig Magazine, an archaeological magazine. This is the July 1999 edition, was for many, many years one of my personal EU collectible holy grails. Thankfully, a number of years ago, I was able to track down a physical copy, which is something, quite frankly, that's nearly impossible to do these days. They just don't seem to exist. It's also hard to find really any place online to read about this until a few years ago I made a scan of the story inside, because yes, indeed, this does contain an original EU story, and supplied that to Joe Bongiorno, who's posted it at his website, starwarstimeline.net, for anyone, thankfully, now to read. But this is truly obscure. I mean, I think many are in the know about this. I think for many this is similarly an EU holy grail, right? To track down a physical copy, and I think for many years just to track down anything about it at all, just to be able to read it, was often something that was very challenging. Thankfully, as I said, now there's a scan of this copy here, at least the story, at starwarstimeline.net. But even though it's obscure, right, existing as it does in a children's archaeological magazine from 1999, it contains, I think, a very worthy story, one that I've always really enjoyed. So although you can read about it at your own pace and enjoy the illustrations inside at your own pace at starwarstimeline.net, I will still give a quick overview here. We can take a look at some of the art, and I will give you the briefest of briefest summaries of the story. Spoilers ahead. It's entitled The Lost City of Tatooine. Basically involves Luke and Biggs out on an archaeological adventure of their own. Makes sense, right? This is an archaeological magazine after all. But what we're actually looking at here isn't the Lost City of Tatooine. This is really known as the Lost City of the Gorfus. It's often supposed at this time, according to Luke and Biggs, that the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders, were opponents of the ancient Gorfus and ultimately destroyed their civilization, thus leading to this Lost City of the Gorfus, the Lost City of Tatooine. What's slowly revealed to Luke and Biggs is that the Gorfus actually are the Tusken Raiders, and that earlier generations of human settlers on Tatooine might have actually played a role in sort of sowing seeds of conflict among them and the Sand People by ultimately stealing their water and resources and driving the Gorfus away from this city, turning it into a lost city, right, and forcing them to become nomads and reliant on the desert to survive. More illustrations here. We have a pull quote about this mysterious lost city of the Gorfus. Legends say there's a lost city of the Gorfus out there somewhere, but anybody that's gone looking for it ain't come back. It's a short story. It ultimately ends here, but I think in a way that connects with A New Hope and ultimately what we're about to see with the original trilogy. This takes place not that long before that. Luke's realizing all these things about Tatooine, about the Gorfus, about the Sand People, about his past, right? And wondering how this maybe relates to the future. So last paragraphs, I think, are pretty poignant. When Luke was home again days later, he started to tell Uncle Owen over dinner about his adventures, right? Desolation Canyons. If I'd thought you'd go near that area, I would have taken that land speeder away from you, right? Uncle Owen doesn't want Luke, sticking his beak in the past in any way, right? We know this, right? For obvious reasons. Uncle Owen says, look, the past is best left alone. And I think the last paragraph, I think, is particularly poignant. It's always sort of stuck with me. Luke went out and looked at sunset from the edge of the lonely crater that was his home. Obviously a very familiar scene to us. The past does hold clues, right? And now I know who the Sand People really are. Luke wondered what clues his own past held. Why did he always yearn for something more than the farm? What had his father been like? Someday, perhaps, and someday very soon, right, he would learn. Someday the past would help him understand who he was too. Just a fun story, a great story, great illustrations. I'm really glad that this exists. By the way, just after this, there's a 2-page story about the real life archaeological search, for instance, for Star Wars sets in Africa, right? Which is really cool, sort of continuing the archaeological theme. But a fun magazine. I highly, highly recommend that if this is one of your grails, that you continue the hunt. It is worth it. But as I said, if you just want to read the story and enjoy the illustrations, thankfully now at starwarstimeline.net, you can read a scan of the very story I've just shown. See you next time.